The drive to the New England coast was like most road trips, exhausting but fascinating. An endless sea of fast food restaurants, hotels of varying quality, and roadside tourist traps. But the best part was taking it with Jade, my longtime girlfriend and new wife. Our ceremony was about as low-key as you can get, as we dressed up slightly and got married at a courthouse with just a few family members and close friends in attendance. Afterwards, we ate dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. Naturally, we indulged in the celebration cheesecake in lieu of a wedding cake. And I don't mean we each got a slice to go. No, we bought an entire cheesecake, took it home, and ate a piece every night while watching TV. There was no destination wedding, no massive banquet hall, no DJ, no awkward best man or maid of honor speeches, no day-long photo sessions with bridesmaids and groomsmen, no dress or tux rental, no bridal registry, and no stress. My favorite part? The fact that she was the one who suggested it. "I hate all that bridezilla nonsense," Jade said every time she had to be at a friend's wedding. "Believe me, I'm happy for her, but a wedding is a wedding, no matter what the price tag is." But the last straw happened in the lead up to her friend Taylor's wedding. After some fitting, she came home and was irate. I've officially had it with anyone planning a wedding. No matter what, someone turns into a wannabe general acting like they're planning an invasion. Roosevelt and Churchill probably argued less about D-Day than Taylor, the groom, and her parents argued over seating arrangements. And the clothes arguments. I swear, renting an overpriced dress is worse than renting bowling shoes. At least with bowling shoes, they're reasonably priced. You're almost guaranteed to have fun while wearing them, and the trouble you can get into while wearing them is limited. I shudder to think about what certain tuxes or dresses go through at weddings or other formal occasions. I laughed. That was the moment I knew she was the right one for me. I always told myself that if I was ever going to get married, I would do it once and do it right. Quite frankly, I would be happy with getting married in sweatpants and eating Chinese takeout, so long as it was with the right person. So when we got engaged and someone asked us if we were busy planning, the answer was always a gleeful, nope. The reaction never failed to elicit an amusing reaction. To be honest, I think most people never thought we'd actually follow through with our plans. I can't tell you how many people looked at me with pure envy. Because of the lack of a wedding ceremony, we saved a ton of money and decided to put it towards something the two of us would enjoy. But the next question we had to ask ourselves was, what does a couple who has an unconventional wedding do for a honeymoon? Eventually, Jade and I planned a road trip where we toured across the country and explored creepy destinations. Although for the first few days, we did yield to tradition, writing "Just Married" on the back of my SUV in red dry erase marker. It earned us plenty of honks and waves along the way. As soon as we got on the highway and started playing some classic rock, I had never felt so alive before. The two of us barreling down the open road together towards the future. That's what marriage is really about. But about halfway through the trip, we got a call from a lawyer representing the estate of my Uncle Carlton. A rich eccentric, he had lived as a hermit for almost 20 years before he died, and for some reason I had been left ownership of White Pine, his home on the ocean. We were both surprised. But considering people leave stuff to their pets these days, it wasn't the craziest thing ever. But that meant I did have to sign some papers to formalize the process. So we made plans to meet the lawyer and see the house on the return journey home. As the news began to sink in, so did the excitement. I couldn't believe my luck. Possibilities began to race through my head. Should I sell the land and make a fortune off it? Or keep it and live in some mansion with my new wife for a while? It was like the whole world had changed in the blink of an eye. The fact that a single announcement can turn everything upside down, for good or bad, is uncanny. As we arrived to see the house, I couldn't remember the last time I'd been this excited. The posh neighborhood only added to the surrealness of it all. But when we arrived, I wasn't sure what to think. Instead of some grand country estate, White Pine looked like the kind of place local kids told stories about, the kind that usually ended with them daring each other to get close or go inside. The house was the same kind of white frame, dark shutter beach house as the rest of the area, but it needed a new paint job and the lawn was in disarray. Not like the rest of the impeccably cut lawns with perfect hedges and catalog-worthy flower gardens we had seen for miles. Jade and I didn't say anything to each other at first. We just sat there, staring straight ahead at the house and the property before I parked in front of the 3-car garage and stepped out into the humid afternoon air. As I did, I heard the shrill drone of a mosquito as it flew past my ear. The realtor and probate attorney were already outside waiting for us. The realtor was a slender blonde woman in a white pantsuit. With her well-practiced smile, she was the kind of woman who was probably voted homecoming queen in high school. The lawyer, with his closely cropped silver hair, wore a navy blue business suit and a polite but official expression. "Spencer?" The realtor reached us first. "Yes. Cindy Hutton, pleased to meet you." She shook my hand and the probate attorney stepped forward. "And I'm Edward Westfield, attorney at law." Westfield firmly shook my hand before he took some papers out of his briefcase and went over them before I signed. I liked his demeanor. Businesslike, thorough, but succinct. No doubt he'd gotten plenty of practice at this over the years. "Now that the house is officially yours," he concluded by putting the papers back into his briefcase, "Cindy will take you two on a tour so you can decide what to do with it." She did just that, and I was happy to feel quite at home at White Pine. I was also pleasantly surprised to see that the house's interior was in far better shape than the exterior. The house was a little dated, but it worked with the place's nautical-themed decor. But during the last few minutes of the tour, Cindy slipped in a small detail as we were walking back out the front door towards Westfield. "The property has quite a long history, as do most of the houses in the area. It used to belong to a prominent local sea captain in the late 1800s. Some locals even love to claim the place is haunted." "Wait, haunted?" I blurted out. "Yes, you know how people can be about that. Any historical home is haunted anymore. If you want to know my professional opinion," Cindy's voice dropped to a whisper, "I think most people love to say their house is haunted because it draws in potential buyers. It's not like the old days when an infamous house was a non-seller. These days, people snap them up in a heartbeat." "You got that right," Jade nodded along. "But that's all we have for you." Westfield clapped his hands together in a final gesture as we returned to where he was standing. "If there's anything you need from me, here's my card." While he produced one from his jacket pocket, Cindy fished one out of her purse, and they both handed them to me in turn. "My best wishes to you both." He politely nodded to us and walked to his silver Lexus. "Good luck, you two, no matter what you decide, and have a safe trip home." Cindy eagerly shook my hand farewell and gave Jade a quick hug before she too turned and walked to her car, a white BMW. With that, Jade and I were alone with the sounds of crickets, seagulls, and the gentle rocking of waves. "Well, what do you think? Do you like it?" "I do," she nodded. "A lot." "Despite its age?" "No, because of it," she smiled. "What other people call baggage or history, I call character. I'm sick of all the cookie-cutter suburban McMansions I can't stop seeing everywhere. They're so generic and boring. Does this place have its problems? Sure, but it's honest about it. Besides, look at this place, Spencer. The view alone is priceless." I couldn't argue with that. With the white picket fence, stunning views of the deep blue ocean, the waves gently lapping on the beach in the backyard, and the cozy nautical theme of the house, it truly was priceless. In an instant, I imagined clam bakes out on the back deck and sipping iced teas on the screened-in front porch on the 4th of July weekend, while the sound of fireworks boomed over the water. The possibilities were endless, and the feeling was intoxicating. We spent some basic money having the essentials renovated, but I felt no need to splurge on fancy furniture or anything. The process was so much fun for the both of us. Countless afternoons exploring the new house and finding all the little nooks and idiosyncrasies that make each house unique. I didn't feel like the place was haunted at all, but I did feel on a few occasions that I wasn't alone when it turned out no one was there. But I chalked it up to the whole new house thing, and the place was very old, and they always feel lived in. Like Jade said herself, New mass-produced houses are empty in a lot of ways. One night, about a month after I officially signed the papers, we had some guests over when Jade's family came down in lieu of a housewarming party. Jade was whipping up some potato salad with her brother, and I was warming up the grill in the back with Pete, her dad, when we suddenly heard screaming in the house. The two of us sprinted inside and found ourselves in the sitting room where Erin, Jade's 24-year-old niece, was screaming incoherently. We all just stood there while Lily, Jade's mother, tried to calm her down. After she babbled on for about a minute, Erin finally managed to explain what happened. I was watching The Real Housewives on my iPad when something made it go across the room and crash against the wall. It was like someone ripped it right out of my hands. I had no idea if that was what really happened, but it was clear Erin was seriously freaked out by something. While Jade and her mom tried to get her to take a breath, Pete and I slowly left the room, unsure of what to do with ourselves. As we walked back outdoors, I heard Pete mutter to me, "Thank God we don't have to listen to that absurd show anymore. If I had to hear one more second of that nonsense, I would have thrown it at the wall myself." "I don't blame you, Pete. Now how about we fire up that grill?" He nodded approvingly. "Good man." The rest of the cookout passed without incident, but Erin was quiet for the rest of the evening. Nothing remotely like that happened again until 3 weeks later, when my brother Nate and his girlfriend Alyssa came to spend the night at the house. We had a great dinner at a local bistro and came back after midnight. Jade and I headed to bed soon after, and I was almost asleep when we heard some raised voices coming from the guest bedroom. But raised voices quickly turned into full-fledged yelling and a loud crash that was followed by the sound of Alyssa screaming. I bolted out of bed, ran out of our bedroom, and frantically knocked on the guest room door. Nate and Alyssa bolted out of the room and ran into the hallway, nearly colliding with me as they did. We were just watching one of those ridiculous dating shows to doze off to when we heard the TV switch off. I thought it was just a fluke, so I switched it back on. But the minute I laid back down, it switched off again. So then I yelled at the TV, switched it back on, and sat there. But instead of switching off again, one of those massive bookends flew across the room, slammed into the TV, and shattered it. "And I swear," Alyssa spoke up, "I saw the shape of a person take it off the shelf and hurl it towards the screen. A big silhouette." I stood there, stunned into silence. "I hope you won't be offended if we spend the night at a hotel," Nate said. Nate's expression was practically begging me to say no, which I did. Then he and Alyssa wasted no time at all in grabbing their stuff and leaving the house as quickly as possible. I'd never seen him move so fast in my life. Once they left, Jade and I were alone and speechless. But eventually, we went back to bed. "Do you believe that really happened?" She turned to face me once we were both settled back under the covers. "Honestly, I have no reason to doubt it did. But on the other hand, it's weird. Weird is right. Do you remember what they said about this house supposedly being haunted?" "Yeah. And I've been thinking about what happened with your niece. But we've been in this house for a while and nothing like that's happened since. We've turned on the TV 1,000 times and never had anything odd happen." "I know. Oh well, I guess I can't exactly blame someone for not wanting to watch one of those terrible reality dating shows. Although I use the term reality loosely. You got that right. Good night." "Good night." Nothing else odd happened that night, and we both slept fine. A few days later, it was raining out, so the two of us were having a quiet movie night at home. After I attempted to start a fire in the massive stone fireplace, I flipped through the movie channels in search of something to watch, and I noticed that 50 Shades of Grey was on. "I dare you to leave that on." I looked up and saw Jade smirking at me. "Why?" "I know people who went to see it in the movie theater and left after half an hour. People who've never walked out of a movie in their life." "Half an hour? That's pretty impressive." "I know. Let's see if we can outlast them." I put the remote down, settled down on the sofa, and watched as the movie started. "This movie is so bad." Jade shook her head when we were barely 5 minutes in. "It's stunning, really. I can't even imagine how they filmed this with a straight face. And these are all the best takes. Imagine what didn't make it into the movie. I know, but that happens with a lot of movies. Yeah, but this is next level. But before I could say another word, the screen abruptly switched off. Jade looked at me, but I shrugged at her. I reached down to grab the remote, but she suddenly grabbed my arm. Wait a minute. I've noticed a pattern. Then she looked around expectantly at the sitting room. Do you have a recommendation? After only a few seconds, the TV switched back on, and the channels began to flip past until they stopped abruptly on another movie. My jaw hit the floor when I saw the movie was The Exorcist. I was too stunned to talk, but Jade was laughing and couldn't stop. I thought you had a sense of humor. It is a masterpiece, but do you really want us to watch The Exorcist? She eventually managed to ask. There was no answer, but after a few moments the channel changed, and another movie came on screen. It took me a moment to recognize it, but there was no mistaking Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. Good choice. Thanks for letting us know it's on. She relaxed against the couch and looked at me nonchalantly. I shrugged and did the same. It's good to have another person with good tastes in movies and TV in the house, I said. You're welcome to voice your opinion if someone tries to make us watch something awful again. But please, try not to destroy the TV if you can avoid it. We both waited for some sign of a reaction, which didn't come. But just as I was about to focus back on the movie, my sad attempt at a fire, which had been smoldering weakly in the fireplace, suddenly sprung to life and crackled merrily in the grate.